Well, hello, that's me again. It is June 20th, it's Monday, and there are some things which we really need to discuss. And I want to start with the fairly simple indicator, so to speak, of a desperation, which you can always notice or figure out just looking at this indicator in the combined West, let's put it this way. And the more things do not go the American or European way, the more chest thumping begins to appear in the media. And I am on the record, and this has been discussed already even in my videos, but in my books and my writing and everything, that basically this is the only area or arena, if you wish, where the most of the ruling class of the West can actually conduct any kind of the fight or combat, if you wish. And this does not also mean that it's only civilian political brass, which of course it's absolutely true and completely applies to them. But it is also military, and let's put it very straightforward. And again, I'm a record, guys. Military record of the combined West of the last 25 years is dismal. It's horrendous in terms of the incompetence, political cowardice, and improper application of the military force, even when the military force seems to be fairly well, designed and, fit to conduct serious military operations. But it only seems like that. So now, when we have the latest, so to speak, from Ukraine, and we know that Ukraine continues to pummel the civilian areas, for example, of Donetsk, and I will make probably one additional video in terms of explanation why Russians still didn't suppress this Avdiivka place, where primarily the artillery and missile attacks on civilians in Donetsk happened. I will describe it later, not today, but people don't understand that there are many civilians, very many civilians in that area. So, and many of those civilians in that area are also relatives of those civilians in Donetsk who are being pummeled. But of course, those little things are of no interest for armchair strategists and Western media, but we'll talk about this later, as I already stated. But I want to go and discuss a little, very interesting headline today. We have this dude, and it was reported by Bild, and it doesn't really matter if Bild is, tabloid or not. The fact remains the fact that here's the guy, here's the boy, 56 years old, General Main Inspector of the Luftwaffe, Lingo Gerhardt, who still plays into this Cold War thingy, and I believe under his command he has about 40 maybe operational airplanes, but yeah, he's German Air Force general, probably some heir to, Hermann Goering and all this, and look what he tells. And he says, yesterday on the symposium on the sea power, he tells that Russia should be really ready for nuclear response if Russia decides to use nuclear weapons itself. The question which one has to ask is, if this guy, what's his name, Lieutenant General, and he obviously commands, however pathetic, Luftwaffe, we should ask a question. Did this guy even read Russian military doctrine? Because obviously for any kind of the Western military academy or Western military institution, knowing, of course, understanding that Russians are mortal threat to the Western world order, you should know the actually military doctrine of Russia. It is in the open. It was signed in 2014. You can find it anywhere you want. And of course, the Articles 26 and 27 described very well the conditions and criteria of the use of the nuclear weapons. And those use of nuclear weapons only authorized by the President of Russian Federation, and of course it happens only when the existence of the Russian state and its allies is in doubt and threatened directly. For this German dude, who obviously still lives in some kind of delusion, and evidently, again, as most Western military top brass is really good only for the PR and, media battles, he should know that actually for West, especially NATO, to provide a real, mortal, direct threat to the livelihood and existence of the Russian state, they should either attack first in nuclear way, or they should really try to invade with the immense power, if they will be ever able to collect it, and literally try to get to basically Moscow. Then Russia will use the nuclear weapons, and basically that will be it. For Germany, it's not going to take much, I mean, including for this guy and his, whoever his friends and circle, but Russia has enough means to basically blow the shit out of Germany and basically turn it into the parking lot. But this guy doesn't stop on that. He continues to talk about that Russia cannot threaten us, we have the new, Air Force coming soon, and other like 600 additional US planes will be adding to the combat order, of course, with Luftwaffe being really one of those, so to speak, factors and, allies participating in defeating Russia. Obviously, the guy has issues with the theory of operational research. He has also issues with the operational planning, which is, at some point of time, I begin to admit that it's not surprising anymore that they are ignorant and really that incompetent. Obviously, he should read up first on 2017 on the RAND big air operations honcho, Mr. Achmanik, who thought that, yeah, we can do like, kill Russians with 68 air wings, and he even provided the list of this. But 2 years later, he dramatically changed his tune, and he said, no matter what it is, most of it will not even reach Russia, all those F-35s, what have you, because they will be annihilated on the runways and airports and what have other other facilities where they theoretically could be launched, and essentially, unquote him, we will have our ass handed to us in real war with Russia and China. So this German general should really basically learn a little bit of the military science, which I doubt they teach it, probably more substituted with the gender issues and tolerance and leadership courses. But the point is that even if you get all US Air Force and all European Air Forces, the guy should know that basically the first salvo of the air defense of Russia in the European part is probably we're looking at several thousand missiles of all kind of different types and calibers operating from such air defense systems as Buk M2, M3, Panzer, obviously S-300s, S-300V4, S-400s, and the issue goes on and on and on, and S-350 and things of this nature. So if he thinks that he can break through this and attack Russia, well, he better start learning basic technology. Which brings us to other thing. Forget about this German clown who tries to, thump himself into chest, which is the first indicator of how desperate they are. But here's the other thing. And that's kind of also interesting because obviously and again, I don't make any secret of that. I don't take any kind of American foreign policy publication seriously. First, because American diplomats are primarily ignorant and they are pretty incompetent, bar some, with the exception of few old school. Most of them are basically indoctrinated products of the America's humanities education, so to speak. And again, please don't chastise me for saying humanities. In this particular case, the ridicule of the humanities education is absolutely legitimate, and I've been on the record for many times about this. But here it is. Here's the foreign policy, which is the basically neocon and liberal interventionist publication which was actually founded by none other than Mr. Samuel Huntington, late Samuel Huntington, the author of the interesting work, obviously The Clash of Civilization, much of whose forecast never panned out and never came through, but at least he tried to be objective there. Unlike the other, so to speak, thinkers, quote unquote, from the United States and Western world, trying to write and forecast anything in geopolitical realm. Here's, for example, some dude, Peter Raff, a senior fellow at Hudson Institute, writes that Germany's new resolve on Russia is already flagging. Well, he'd have to understand that even this pathetic headline about that Berlin along with Paris may yet help Moscow snatch victory from the jaws of defeat is already an indication of how butthurt all those America's geopolitical specialists, and again, most of them are very ignorant people, badly educated, extremely historically ignorant, they cannot help. They are sore losers. And I don't know why he decided that, Russia was, and Moscow somehow was facing a defeat, because obviously they don't understand, pardon my French, shit, anything in the modern warfare. And that brings us to the other thing from the foreign policy, and I do it obviously as an example. I would never suggest you to read this crap. Basically, it's a rag neocon thing. They collect all kinds of the pseudo-academic trash from Russia and Ukraine, who also write those bullshit articles there about nothing basically. But here's a very interesting thing which really kind of caught my attention, and this is in order to explain also, and people, some of them I understand them, and actually they could have a legitimate argument that, oh, why you stick so much of math and operations into your discussions and conversations. Well, because you cannot operate the modern warfare and modern geopolitics without it. And I understand some people feel absolutely intimidated by those numbers, but believe me, I didn't even start really to get into the neck of the woods. If you want to really conduct modern warfare, if you want to understand how it works, especially understand how physical principles which are behind that, how they shape the whole modern battlefield and geopolitics and economics, I'm sorry, you have to face some mathematical issues. You have to face some math and, of course, physics, because that's how it works. It doesn't work anymore like good old times, and I'm going to be discussing this in a minute, when you just stick the goddamn bunch of powder through drop the cannonball, lit the match, and bang, you blow something, Even then, it requires a significant understanding of the ballistics, and I'm not going to be talking about how it works for now. But here's another piece of the garbage from foreign policy, and this is really interesting. And again, they are really butthurt and so losers, because even those who do not understand, they sense what is going on, and they can, of course, defer to, let's say, American officers such as Douglas MacGregor or my friend Larry Johnson or other serious analysts who already stated, yeah, it's over, guys, it's over. It's just a matter of mopping up, and no matter what they do, it's just all basically therapeutical measures to, alleviate their butthurt. But here it is. Here's from foreign policy. An expert point of view on a current event. I immediately can tell you that the guy who is Luciano Staciano Daniels, who is a scholar of 17th century military history, he is not a scholar on anything related to modern geopolitics, let alone the military affairs, because he simply has no background. And I can tell you, I'll show you his background, which is purely humanities, and basically he has a PhD in history. And here what he writes: why Russia keeps turning to mass firepower. Russian artillery is an old tradition with brutal uses. Well, I have news for this Lucian guy. He also works for some Israeli university or something like that. Any warfare is brutal. And if he doesn't understand what combined arms warfare is and what it involves, well, he better go back to school and start learning things which really matter, not all the bullshit he studied in his colleges and universities where he got his PhD. And here it is. This is the phrase which immediately, and this is yesterday's article, it also is the same indicator of this German Luftwaffe dude, and it gives the basically indication of how hurt they are, how they suffer from this sore loserism. And look at this. Russia did not intend to fight a war like this. Well, I begin to think that the guy not only has to really go back to school, he has to really actually see psychiatrists, because obviously if he understands what Russia intend to fight and how Russia was intended to fight, he doesn't have basically a clue about it, because obviously he wouldn't be allowed near Russia's general staff or any serious Russian military academy, because he simply doesn't have any competences to do this, let alone clearances. But of course, yeah, sure, he knows how Russia was intended to fight a war like this. But look at this. He obviously continues to do with this bullshit about after initial dash towards Kiev failed, which of course was not a dash at all, and people much smarter than this Luciano dude, for example, like American officers who are actual military professionals, they absolutely came together basically in unanimous opinion that Kiev was a feint. It was to fix their reserves, Ukrainian reserves there, and after that Russia proceeded to deal with Donbass. But look what he writes. With it comes a return to a familiar practice in Russian doctrine for centuries, the use of massed heavy artillery. In contrast to US doctrine, which emphasizes the relatively precise use of high explosives, Russian doctrine emphasizes massed firepower and has for generations. And let me show you actually the background of this guy. And here it is. Here's Luciano Statiano Daniels, PhD. He is now in postdoctoral fellow at Tel Aviv University. Look at him. He graduated bachelor's degree in this famous St. John's College, which is basically, it's the college where you read books. You can look it up, believe me. I know, because at some point of time, my daughter was considering to joining them, and I said, you know what, this is not education. You're certainly going to be well read, but you're not going to have any kind of a practical education in your life. So he, as you can see yourself, he has a bachelor's degree in classics, liberal arts, great books. After that, he graduated with the master's degree in Eastern classics. Then he got some kind of, again, degree from New York University. And of course, he ended up with the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, Doctor of Philosophy in History. So as you can see yourself, he has a very rich military background to speak about artillery and what actually doctrine emphasizes. First, he obviously doesn't understand what doctrine emphasizes both in the United States and in Russia. But I want to start to show you how basically ignorant and people with agenda and people with some psychotic issues, because they obviously understand that the world they planned and foresaw is not developing in accordance to their plans, how they basically don't know shit, basically what they are talking about. Here, let me show you for a couple of things from Russian artillery, which is long ago is based on the precision fire, and it is indeed high precision. Look up what precision means in terms of definition. And obviously, the fact that Russia runs already full routines on the tactical and even operational strategic level of the net-centric warfare, and again, possesses second to none, equal to United States intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance assets, including the space-based. So here's just some low tactical technological level, which I have to talk about in terms of the artillery. Here's one of such demonstration is, look at this. This is the good old Russian FARA. It's FARA VR, actually. It's man-portable battlefield surveillance radar with a panoramic display, and this is the thing which actually you use depending on the circumstances, tactically, and especially if you need to deal with such things as, for example, infantry, enemy infantry, and tanks. Well, this FARA VR actually detects the tank at the range of 8 kilometers, and it produces accurate enough targeting to be used with all kinds of things, ranging from the even AGS, I mean automatic grenade launchers, to artillery of the relatively short to medium range artillery, which provides enough targeting and resolution of the uncertainties. Yeah, I know. Resolution of uncertainties. That's another whole other thing. It's a lot of mathematics. And it does job excellent in most good way, so to speak, and it's been used very widely in Donbass, and as we know, the basically losses of the Ukrainian equipment and personnel are catastrophic. But again, this is just, you know, tactical level, so to speak, tactical unit radar. But of course we can go further, and then we'll see if you want to see it. It's the Zoopark 1. It's the Zoopark or Zoo. This already is counter battery radar, which can basically provide a great targeting data, and it's fully digital. It's digital processing of the signal, including obviously digital processing on the resolution of the uncertainties. And this is also fully net-centric capable, because it plugs itself not only in the tactical unit but even the operational unit and even the strategic level of the whole theater of operation. This is the older version of the Zoopark or Zoo 1, which gives you capability to conduct counter battery, so to speak, struggle fight to the distances of up to 45 kilometers, depending on the type of the artillery. Usually it's something like 155 millimeters. But of course the new one, which is of course, well, it's relatively new one. Again, this one is been on it's Zoopark 1M. It's even newer one. It is even more capable with even better processing and even better net-centric capabilities. And that thing, yeah, that it just sees everything what flies. It really develops the firing or counter-firing solution extremely fast, within the 20 seconds, I believe, or 15, I don't remember. So nobody has the chance to get out of the way once the response begins to fly, and response could range from either Russian Msta 1S 152 millimeter self-propelled artillery, or even larger ones like huge, you know, those huge Pion type mortars, and the higher level or higher caliber artillery. And believe me, this creates this unified informational field, or battlefield, if you wish, which of course maintains a very high level of situational awareness and tactical awareness. And I will explain. Situational awareness is the awareness, or basically what you can describe as I know where my enemy is. Tactical awareness is I know what my enemy is going to do. Russia, I mean, overwhelms Ukraine with this, and the results of this operation already speak for themselves, and even Kyiv cannot basically hide anymore the basic destruction of the VSU. And so when you have this type of equipment, it's by far not everything. Each of them, from FARA to Zoopark and other complexes, which including acoustic ones, you probably never heard about it, and say, oh yeah, there are acoustic ones during World War II. Well, the new acoustic ones are really amazing. But all this also comes with the unmanned aerial vehicles, and it also plugged into the whole net of the combat control of the battlefield, depending on either its tactical level or operational one. Strategically, you already saw yourself central of the control of the Russian armed forces in Moscow. It has been featured. It's a stunning, basically super or mega computer, which allows you to literally see everything up to the point of or down to the point of squad, or even some personnel of, let's say, special operations. So, yeah, if he thinks that this dude from Israel, he thinks that Russia is just about brutality, well, yeah, obviously you have to be brutal in your warfare, because in the end the final object is to, especially like a final objective of this operation in Ukraine is demilitarization. And demilitarization can go only two ways. It could go peaceful, which forget about it, or it will be basically the whole VSU and every single thing which is sent to them by the West will be ground into minced meat or minced metal, if you wish. So, and the result is, as again, I can quote, Colonel Douglas MacGregor, but I also was on the record, so is Larry Johnson, so many other people. The war was over in the first 2-3 weeks. After that, it is mopping primarily. And after the attack today by Ukrainian forces of the basically civilian infrastructure, which are the platforms, drilling platforms, oil platforms in the Black Sea, well, they obviously are desperate. Yesterday, they lost 57 top brass, generals and officers, and that gives some people who think that, oh yeah, Russia still kind of relies on good old human. It's a combination of incredible intelligence work, which gave a precise targeting, and calibers 3 M14s already did their job, just blew to smithereens pretty much the whole command of the Donbass grouping of the VSU. So this is what I wanted to talk about, and this is also to just underscore the necessity to have more or less basically enlightened and educated, even if it's guess, on the issues of military operations and especially modern geopolitics. Modern geopolitics cannot be described today only by historians or political scientists, let alone. And again, there's no such science as political science. Doesn't exist. It's a contrived combination of the subjects which are learned in a shallow, meandering way, and which produce nothing but the general and very often distorted impression of the outside world. And as I already stated, I want to state it again, and I repeat it again. Yes, you cannot become a cultured and educated man without humanities. You need to know language. You have to have a brilliant command of the language. You have to obviously be, very well educated in terms of literature. Obviously, history. Nobody argues with that. That is why you need to have those faculties and departments in universities. But you cannot constantly live on that. And we run in the end into the brick wall when this expertise of some dude from Israel and who read books for education, only everybody reads books, with his humanities degree and being the expert on the 17th century warfare, begins to pass judgments on subject he has no clue about. And that's what I'm saying. Dude, can you even understand how the process of resolution of the uncertainties happens in, for example, combat informational control systems of the battlefield or on the ship? Obviously, it's good for me to say I have a master's graduate degree in that, but other than that, we have to understand that at some point of time, words by people like Larry Johnson, like Douglas MacGregor, Scott Ritter once in a while, they matter because these are professionals with the military background, but especially important from professionals who definitely have the classic military education, which also adjusted for the technological realities of the 21st century. And that is why I will continue. Okay, some people will not like it, but I will continue to push you a little bit, because obviously I'm not making this only for the sake of, let's say, money earnings, or I really try to educate you. If you read my blog, it was educational from the get-go. I never stated there just my feelings, however conflicting they might be. But I always try to educate people and say, hey, here it is. This is how it works. This is not how it works and how it is described in some rag like Foreign Policy or New York Times. This is all bullshit. And we finally basically arrived to this situation. That real professionals who understand how the war works and what it is in the 21st century, only they can figure it out. And even they, being the professional in this matter, does not mean that you always be right. I know I'm not always right. Very often I'm wrong and I make mistakes. But you have to at least be aware of the background, which they didn't teach in history classes, in sociology classes, let alone the language and literature classes, which of course are important. We do have to have them. But I will be talking about this, and I did the video on education issue specifically to address this, because obviously I do not try to diminish people or denigrate them. No, but I'm trying to make people aware of the complexities of modern warfare. It was complex already during World War II, very complex. Now, what can I say? It is all technology, and some of it extremely complex. And some, especially interactions between those technologies, they are very complex and require serious attitude when trying to understand them. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but you need to be basically patient and tenacious, and that's what I'm trying to help you to become in this particular case. So, as always, those who like me, no, not really, you don't have to like me, but yeah, just those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And people who can afford, obviously, financially, please support me on the Patreon, because I think we have so many things to discuss in the future which do require serious scientific and, even if you wish to, spiritual approach. And in order for us not to be like this Luftwaffe dude from Germany who basically chest thumping himself, not understanding what he's talking about. So, this is my talk with you guys for today, and have a nice rest of the week. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.